What was it like being a head coach under Bob Martin? You had some scrapes with him over the years. Was he supportive for the most part?
Yes, he really was. You better be Moorhead. But he really was. He was tough, and I remember one time that you could give. I got on my scholarship limit, but you could balance it out the next semester, and you'd always have some kids to quit or not. Well, it didn't work out that time. And I went over to him and we'd beaten Moorhead, and I thought, boy, he'll help me.
This is the time to talk to him.
Right. This is the time to talk to him. But he took that big old fist of his and hit that on that desk, and he said, "You got us in this trouble. You get us out."
Probably looked at you over the top of his glasses.
Yeah.
You could.
But he
always
helped. He acted. To me, he acted a lot tougher than he was. He wanted to win, and he paid me one of the nicest compliments that I've ever received. And when he was in the nursing home, I would go out and see him, and he looked at me one day and he said, "Roy," he said, "I made a lot of mistakes when I was at Eastern Kentucky, but," he said, "I'll tell you one that I didn't make." And I said, "Well, what's that, sir?" He said, "When I hired you."
Wow.
And I thought that's probably as nice a compliment that I've ever had.
Yeah, yeah.
But he was good.
He didn't give out a whole lot of compliments, did he?
No.
No, but when he did, you knew that he meant it. Next time you're in my office, I'll show you a compliment that
He
from
gave
Dr. Martin
me one too.
that I have framed on the wall over there. But going back to your introduction of Roy, and as you were going through that, and you talked about the number of times that he was the Ohio Valley Conference Coach of the Year, but and you might not have been aware of this little thing, but when as Roy retired, the other coaches in the league voted to name the OVC Coach of the Year award the Roy Kidd Coach of the Year.
No, I did not know that.
Award. So the OVC Football Coach of the Year award is named for Roy, and subsequent to that, one of Roy's successor, and one of his former players, Danny Hope, was the recipient of the Roy Kidd Coach of the Year award. And this year, our new first-year football coach, Dean Hood, who didn't play for Roy, but who coached with Roy, for 4 or 5 years in the 90s, has won the Roy Kidd Coach of the Year award in his first year. And there's got to be some satisfaction to you in that as well.
It really is, and when I first heard that, I'd forgotten that, and then especially this year when Coach Hood got it, and they said the Roy Kidd Coach, and I said, "What's that?" And then it hit me that the OVC. Dean is a great person, and he's going to do a great job here. There's no doubt in my mind, and to see him get that, and actually I get to vote, being a president. And at one time of the American Football Coach Association, I get to vote for the Coach of the Year. So he got one vote. I'll tell him that.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm sure he appreciates it. Talking about coaches, I remember, watching Eastern football and working in the sports information office as a student, and since I've been back here on the faculty and staff, you had some real friends that were also real rivals in the OVC coaching ranks, and then ultimately among in the nation, Jimmy Fikes and Boots Donnelly and Tubby Raymond. Reflect on some of those guys a little bit.
Well, those are the guys you won't beat. But Tubby Raymond and I had some real, I tell you a little story about that. The first time I told Don Combs, I said, I want to play Delaware. They were well known in our division, and it was Division II at that time. I said, see if you can get us a home-and-home game. So we go up there to play them, and I go out to, usually the home team lets you go on their field just to run through, just to get, practice long, 30 minutes, a kind of a walkthrough. And so I go, and he said, no, you can't practice here. You got to go up there on the practice field. I said, well, okay. And so then the next year he came to our place. And, well, actually, I ran into him at the American Football Coaches event. I was talking to Paul Diesel, and he came up, and he acted like he didn't know me. And Paul introduced me to him. So that thought, that didn't rub me too good. So he came down to our place the next year. So we're out there going through a Friday walkthrough and everything, and he said, when can I practice? And I said, oh, you can practice right now if you want to. He said, well, when are you going to be through? And I said, oh, you're not practicing here. You go right down our practice field. I said, there's a manager. He'll take you down there. So I was ready to play him when he got here the next day, I'll tell you that.
What goes around comes around.
That's right.
But I love to beat Boots Donnelly because Boots is, I became friends with
Tennessee.
Boots, but I had respect for Boots. You know, some people you beat, you just think, well, I'm supposed to beat them. But then there's other people you play that
Like two
you
chess
better be
masters
ready to
playing
play.
each
That's
other,
right.
yes.
So I really respected Boots. What a great player was. Had great respect for Jimmy Fikes. I always felt like Jimmy did things right and kept his kids. You know, even though the rival was pretty intense, we never had any real problems and that type of thing. But Fikes was a great coach, and that's another reason I didn't go to Western was because of him. I was offered a football scholarship there, but I knew I'd be playing behind him for 2 or 3 years. I think he was just maybe a sophomore when I got out. But Jimmy's a great coach. But there's been some great coaches. The thing that I loved, Doug, was when a 1A coach came into our league, and we had several.
Yeah.
Oh boy, did I love to beat those guys, because they'd come in our league and they would be so cocky and they were going to change this league, and you'd sit at a meeting when they first come in the league and they'd have this and this, and I'm sitting there saying, no, that ain't going to happen, you know. And but I did love to beat them, and the OVC's had some great coaches in it. They really have. I remember the first year, Bubba Murphy from Middle Tennessee, and I remember I was a rookie, and the first time I went to the coaches meeting, I wasn't sure where Bubba was the commissioner or not, but the commissioner sit beside him, and but Bubba ran. He ran the meeting. So it was obvious to me right then. I thought, that guy's, you know, he's in with the commissioner. And boy, he was, it took me 2 or 3 years to beat him.
And one of the things that Roy Kidd and Bubba Murphy have in common is they both got football stadiums named for them.
Yeah, Bubba was a great guy.
At this point now.
Wilbur Tucker, that was at Tech, was
Yeah.
a great coach. You know, there's been some great coaches in early.
A while ago, I'm gonna tie Tubby Raymond together to something you said long ago in the conversation. Paul's looking at his watch. We're probably gonna have to wind this up here pretty soon, but you were talking about teams needing to be able to both run and pass. And you know, I don't know if you would consider it your best team or not, but it certainly has to be one of the best because it won a national championship and it went undefeated. But the 82 team, in my recollection of it, and thinking about the ground game and passing, was about as good in mixing it up with both the run and pass as you had. Although the Chris Isaac teams were very good at that. Were very good at that too. And then of course that team, I guess, was the last time. A championship game at Wichita Falls was the last time. Was that the last time that you and Tubby Raymond were both on the same field?
Yes, it was, and we beat him. Actually, Tubby and I played 4 times. We played up there, played at our place, then we played him twice in the playoffs. Once in the quarterfinals and then once in the finals. And we beat him 3 out of 4. So that was, and Tubby and I became friends as time went on, you know, and at the being in the American Football Coaches Association and on the board and that type of thing. We became friends, but I had to get his attention for a little bit.
We won that game at Wichita Falls on a blocked field goal return for a touchdown.
That's right, sure did. That really bothered him too.
I was talking to Roy before we started this about that 79 game was probably the best football game I've ever seen. That you know, looked like we had it won, and then looked like we lost it.
Yeah.
And
It's Reno.
a blocked extra point.
Joe Richard.
Joe Richard, that's right. Boy, what a player he was.